Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Everyone knows him as a philosopher, but actually, what we're going to talk about is his compositions. He was born in 1844 and died in 19,000s. Then I'm going to talk to Ramona Monteano about his work in music. How are you doing today?
Hello, Giulio. Hello again. I'm fine, and I'm looking forward to talk about Nietzsche to have this great conversation about him.
Thank you very much for being here with me today, for this partnership, and for all the information you're going to give us about music. And there is a phrase, one of the Nietzsche's phrase, which is life without music would be a mistake. I would like to start with you commenting on this phrase.
Yes, yes. Music was always very, very important for Nietzsche. It was like almost the main part of his life. Everything, even his philosophy was rotating around it, music. And yeah, since he was a kid, he took piano lessons. It was something quite fashionable in those times. And when he was 24 years old, he met the giant Wagner, Richard Wagner, and he completely got lost about this composer and his music, and he completely fell in love with his personality and everything. He felt very, very small around Nietzsche. This was also one strange an interesting fact, because he felt so embarrassed and so shy around his presence. So he took Wagner as a model, not only as a musician, but as a human being, and as something like a myth, like an idol. And many of his writings were inspired by Wagner, by his music. And in the same time, he was studying music, and he was playing also Beethoven. Now I read about this, that he was playing by memory some sonatas by Beethoven, and he started to compose music, to compose piano music, and also some ambitious orchestral works and works for violin and piano and many songs. And he was inspired to become a musician, a professional musician. But as we know, I don't know if many people know, but he was discouraged by Wagner and by his wife Cosima. And the worst critic was Hans von Bülow, who was the first husband of Cosima. They were also parents with Liszt, because Cosima was the daughter of Liszt. And he said to Nietzsche that his music was completely horrible, and he never heard something so awful and so terrible, and he completely destroyed the poor future composer. So that's why we don't hear very often about Nietzsche as a composer, because maybe he just gave up. He could have learned more, he could have become maybe a lot better, but maybe he got so discouraged and so sad about these critics that he never really wanted to become a professional musician anymore.
Yeah, this is very hard when you hear some criticism like this. In what senses do you think Wagner can have influenced Nietzsche, his philosophy? How do you feel this connection? Because you have been playing some Nietzsche for this interview. We're gonna listen to something. How do you feel about his music as a pianist, as a specialist? And how do you think their relationship was, and how does it influence in his philosophy?
Well, I have studied the Heldenklage, the Lament of the Heroes. Maybe my German is not perfect. Okay, the Lament of the Hero, that is definitely inspired by Wagner, because of course Wagner was a hero for Nietzsche. And basically, one of the main operas that inspired Nietzsche was Tristan and Isolde. That was also, this was a very strange coincidence that Wagner started to compose this in Venice. And this is a very romantic piece, no, very idealistic opera, and Nietzsche fell in love completely um, when he heard this Tristan and Isolde. And while the last opera, which was Parsifal, he felt it like a betrayal, no, because all of these morals and all of this purity and this perfect image that he had about Wagner, he felt it like something fake, like something constructed. He said that Wagner was nothing but an actor, no, a histrionical actor, and he was a manipulator. He basically lied to everyone because all of this mythology and all of this purity and this German spirit and this music that was based on the leitmotif and this infinite melody was nothing but something to cheat people, no? Didn't have some true basis, some authentic basis. So this first opera that inspired Wagner was definitely something amazing. I mean, also Tannhäuser, which was this melody, this romantic melody that we can hear still, is not so abstract that other operas, and were very strong. Were a very strong influence for Nietzsche. And in this piece, this Lament of the Hero, we can feel these harmonies that are never resolved, this melody that is going on and on. The phrases are not very clear, not very defined. And you can hear that Wagner had this strong impact. Also, you can hear the Schumann, maybe a young Schumann, or Schumann in his abstract world, no, because we have to remember that all of these great personalities had this mental sickness in common. I mean, Schumann, also Nietzsche, and Nietzsche accused Wagner that he was completely mental sick. I mean, in his music, he can see this decadence, this sickness, this influence that he has on people, not to cure them and not with some clarity, some light, but with something very dark, something very, mm, yeah, he called it sick. I don't know if he was right or not, but it's true that when you hear Wagner, you can go deep into your, no, into your mental trip, into your, yeah, also could be depression or something that goes farther and farther, and could be something big, something amazing, or something very obscure, something very, I mean, like the shadow of Jung, no? That he talks about this shadow that can be also very sick and very negative if we don't put it, no, on the light, and if we don't combine it with our light. So if we go, you know, how can I say, if we go deeper and deeper into this shadow, into this dark, we can really get lost, okay, into this mental labyrinth and all of this. And yeah, it's clear that Nietzsche saw this, and he was maybe right about this. And yeah,
Yeah.
his whole relationship with Wagner was based on adoration at the beginning. Also, this was some kind of sick adoration, we can call it, because this ideal, no, that we can see in some people or in some personalities is never very healthy, no? It's like in love, when you when you fall in love with someone, you start to idealize this person, to put him or her on something, on a throne, no? And then when you meet the real life, you realize that, oh my God, this was not real. This was all in my head. So sometimes you have to be very clear from the beginning to see the reality, not the whole story that you construct in your head. So this is what happened to Nietzsche. This whole love and this whole admiration, this worship was somehow based on his music and on his own fantasy, because in the end, Wagner was not such a beautiful person, such a pure soul. But yeah, we are human, so maybe nobody is so pure and so perfect. And yeah, his music remained in an area that we can call a beginner, let's say. I mean, was not really a beginner. He had some very beautiful ideas, but maybe he never really got to develop to become a complex composer, no? Because yeah, he has beautiful ideas, but he was always like trying, like learning. He never really got to manage not to be an authority as a musician. But yeah, who knows? Maybe it was better like like Schumann, no? Because Schumann broke his finger, his fourth finger, because he wanted to become a virtuoso. Instead, he became an amazing composer because he couldn't play so well anymore. So maybe same thing with Nietzsche, no? Because as he didn't get to become a great composer, he was great in writings, and yeah, we can maybe be just grateful for this, that he left us such an enormous and important opera in his philosophy.
What I found interesting about what you said is something related to the shadow. Yeah, that is like perhaps Nietzsche could share a little bit of his shadow in philosophy, which is very intense, and also he looked for another way of doing this sublimation of his art through music. But what I feel listening to the Heldenklage, the Lament of a Hero, which is, as you said, something unfinished or perhaps that doesn't resolve the way it should be. And it causes some kind of anguish or some feelings that come a little dark, right?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Yeah, yeah, because it's very strange. It's like a trip that it goes on and on, and it's very hard to interpret in some ways. I heard it also in a very romantic way, like more how can I say sweet and but in the end, I don't know. I feel it like very strong, very. I mean, it's like it has an impact. It's very strong. It's like a tiny bit like Liszt also. Liszt, Wagner, a tiny bit of Beethoven, maybe I don't know. But yeah, like you say, he never resolves, and yeah, this is some characteristic of him, and also his philosophy, and maybe his whole life is a little bit contradictory, you know, because sometimes you can see he's in love with something and then he denies it, and it's very strange. Also, this also the thing that in the end he basically criticized. Wagner, and he fell in love with Bizet, with Carmen, which is completely the opposite. And somehow it's so far away from Wagner, no? And he, before he praised this dark spirit, German spirit, the mythology, and then he's praising the Mediterranean spirit, rhythm, the fire, the passion, the lightness, and this is very strong. But maybe yeah, it's a characteristic also of philosophers, of artists, that sometimes we are very we are very contradictory, you know. Today I'm in love with the rain and with the with the I mean, I don't know, with the dark, and tomorrow I'm in love with the light and with the summer. So maybe we are everything in the end, but we are very extreme, no? We can go from one side to the other, from one extreme to the other very easily. I mean, it's not something that we are in the middle. Okay, let's stay always very balanced. I mean, to be balanced, it's a kind of complicated task.
Yeah. Nietzsche seemed to be always praising and after death destroying something. You can notice these peaks of praising something, destroying something in his music too. Yeah. And how do you feel being a musician? How hard is it to express yourself on the piano, for example? Because when you have philosophy, you have words, meanings, and on the piano, you only have the sounds, right? So you're building up something really abstract. How do you deal with that being a musician?
Maybe I deal better with sounds than with words, because the words are somehow concrete. The words are too how can I say, too
Yeah.
concrete. I mean, I don't know, the abstract word, the transcendental word. I think they are closer to music, because the music, yeah, can be explained, can be translated. You can tell a story about music. You can explain the harmony, the form of the piece, the genre, the everything. I mean, the period, the history, everything you can explain, but still there is a maybe half of every piece that is completely abstract. I mean, you have to translate it in the way you feel it as an artist, as a pianist, as a singer, whatever. I mean, yeah, it's the composer, it's the history, it's the harmony, it's everything, but then it's you. I mean, it's very beautiful, this thing that you cannot explain it. You have to also feel it inside of you. I mean, you have to no absorb it, and maybe today you feel it in a tempo, you feel it in a certain way. Maybe in 1 year you can feel it completely different. I mean, I think it's a work in progress. It's never okay. I have to play it like this. This is the tempo I put, and this is the phrase I do, which is yeah clear somehow. But maybe after sometimes you get some other ideas, and this is very beautiful. It's in complete transformation. It's never the same twice. No, it's not like a painting or like something you write that okay it stays there, and black and white is more like a river that is flowing, like nature, like something that is moving. No, it's beautiful.
And what tips could you give as a pianist for a person that is going to play one of the Nietzsche's pieces?
Oh God, this is a very difficult question. Yeah. Okay, first, of course, you analyze everything, you get the scores, but maybe you should get deeper into his philosophy, into his ideas, into this contradictory way of being, and into this. I think Nietzsche, in the end, was also a very shy person. Somehow, in his music, you can feel it was somehow introverted, and I think he was somehow looking for something strong, was for something to guide him, and he was always in love with music, and maybe he was also suffering about this from the fact that he didn't become a musician, no, because he was always no praising music, and he was looking for something transcendental, and also about I always think about God, no, that we he said that God was dead, that we killed him. If you think about the superhuman, I mean, also this he was imagining this big human that was maybe who knows Wagner or musician or something connected with something transcendental, was not something normal. I mean, was not a normal human being, was something that was so high. And yeah, somehow music is very high. We never really arrive to the highest, no. Yeah, and also when we play these composers, we have to think about the greatness of their music, especially Bach or Beethoven, that arrive really to the highest, no, to the
That's
highest,
true.
yeah, way
And
of making music. And Nietzsche, yeah, he was trying to get close to this. So what I can say to young musician or to whoever approaches his music, yeah, to read about him, to try to read his music, and to read between the lines, yeah, because his music could seem simple, but somehow it's not. And yeah, you have to translate it through his writings and through his suffering, because in the end he was suffering as a musician. He was not a musician that was successful and had a big power. So somehow, yeah, his own introverted personality, the researcher, no, the philosopher that also wanted to get deeper into the music, and it's something very sensitive, something very particular to study. And I also would like to get deeper because I only practice two of his pieces, and today, for example, I was listening the whole day to his music, and some ideas are really, really interesting, really nice. You have to be open, no, because somehow people have prejudices. Ah, okay, Nietzsche is the philosopher that didn't believe in God. Okay, he hated religion. Okay, or Nietzsche was a bad composer, so because Wagner and Hans von Bülow said this. But no, you have to go farther than these prejudices, because we all have these prejudices. Okay, I read that Nietzsche hated God, or Nietzsche was not a good composer. So, no, let's go by ourselves and let's walk to this path and to discover with our own mind, with our own soul, what he had to say, what he had to. No.
yeah, and Nietzsche would say that the human being is always in the pursuit of power, power of expression, power of everything. And that was something you mentioned. But he had a hard time. If you think about writing music in that period on which the composers were the highest level ever, perhaps technically, and we had perhaps Nietzsche, sorry, Liszt and Chopin, and all the composers that were romantic, and also Wagner, and there was a very hard period for investing in composing. You have to be really good.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're completely right. But yeah, who knows? Maybe he was not such a huge talent, okay, as a kid or as a young musician, but also maybe he didn't have the good teachers. Who knows? Because let's go back to Carl Fierz, let's go back to Mozart, to Liszt, to all of these people. I mean, they immediately had the best teachers. They immediately had their fathers that brought him to the best musicians and trained them. and then their talent developed immediately. I mean, was not something that, okay, let's try later. So we never know how much is the talent and how much was the good training. We never. That's why, if also this is a prejudice, no? Oh, he was a prodigy child. Yeah, but okay, Mozart had his father that when he was 3 years old. I'm not sure that he was 3 years old, but maybe he brought him to the best teachers. So, and he put him to practice maybe 1,000 a day, the whole day, instead of going to play with his neighbors. He was playing the piano, the violin. He was studying theory. He was studying foreign languages. Same field. So when he was 3 years old, his father immediately, of course, the kid was very talented, but
Yeah.
yeah, this is also the luck of being born in a family of musicians.
Yeah, I agree with you because people tend to think that Mozart was only a genius and he didn't work to reach that level, which was just by chance. You know, he was born a genius and has always been a genius, but there is a lot of hard work to be a musician.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely. It was a hard work. Of course, there is a genius because also Chopin, maybe nobody is like Chopin, but also Chopin was working very hard, and who knows, Nietzsche, yeah, maybe he was not so lucky in this way, but anyway, he became the super powerful, the super
Yeah,
powerful human being through his writings, his philosophy, and yeah, and also this battle or not battle from Apollo Dionysus, not the myth that Apollo was the perfection, the beauty, the ideal, and Dionysus was the no the person that represents the earth, the destruction, the all of this human nature, no? Let's say in the raw sense. So all of this combination, no, that we saw in the music of Wagner, but also in the real life, I think, because yeah, this
yeah,
is life in the end. You cannot always be in the top of the mountain. So sometimes you're on the earth struggling with daily life, with the problems. And
that's true. At least we can say Nietzsche was top 10 philosophers ever, like genius in philosophy. You cannot be perfect in everything, or even perfect is a very hard word. Perfection, right?
maybe it doesn't even exist. I don't believe in perfection.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, who is perfect maybe is not really human.
The Uber mentioned that Nietzsche mentioned that Superman perhaps is no one can do it, you know. So it's a matter of being looking forward to doing something perfect in life, and that's what motivated him. He ended up crazy, as we can see in his
Mm.
history, and it kind of we see young people here in Brazil reading a lot of Nietzsche at the point.
Oh, great, great.
That's great. Thank you very much for being here with us. We're gonna hear some Nietzsche, and I would like your final words for this interview. And I would like to ask everyone who is gonna listen to Nietzsche to text us about the impressions you have, how you feel about the music. Thank you very much, Ramona.
You're welcome. I want to say just two words because it was very interesting. You know that Nietzsche said that Venice is the most musical city. If he could think about music, he would think about Venice. And it's very interesting because, yeah, it's my city, my adopted city, but also it's very interesting because both Nietzsche and Wagner were in love with Venice, okay? And even Wagner composed Tristan and Isolde and also Parsifal, maybe not the whole opera, but parts of those two operas in Venice. And Wagner even died in Venice. And for Wagner, yeah, was this whole spirit of decadence, of darkness, and many of these dark feelings and dark inspiration was from Venice for Wagner, okay? While for Nietzsche, the Nietzsche loved, adored Venice, and he came here very, very often in 1880 and other, maybe even every year in some period of his life. And Nietzsche saw Venice like something some very relaxed atmosphere, very open, very pleasant. I mean, he didn't see it as something heavy, as something dark, but something, some place where he could relax and he could recharge, he could reborn. I mean, it was basically the opposite of Wagner. Also, because in the period that he came to Venice, he was not worshipping Wagner anymore. And it's very interesting, like the way that Venice connects all of this. No, it's like a triangle, no?
That's amazing. It was very interesting, and a surprise for you is that Ramona and I will be doing some interviews about composers every month. I hope you like them. Thank you very much for this project together.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the next one.